to my channel and thank you very much for watching. Today's video is going to be all about my blogging journey. I get quite a few questions about it, so I thought I would film a video and fill you all in with the story. I have a little notebook here to make sure I don't miss anything out. And I've written down any specific questions that you guys have left for me, so I'm going to make sure to address those in the points that I make throughout this video. Generally, I'm going to try to split this into two sections. I'm going to go chronologically because it seems like the simplest way. I'm going to start off with how I started, cover the transition to going full-time, and then discuss what it's like doing it full-time, because for those of you who don't know, I'm a full-time blogger. This is my full-time job, which is a dream come true. So I'm going to talk about how I got to that point and then what it's like doing it full-time. There's a lot to cover within this, so I'm going to get straight into it, and hopefully this is not going to be the longest video ever, although probably is. Right, so right back to the beginning. Sadly, I'm dreadful at remembering dates, and I've just been trying to work out like the time scales here, and I'm struggling, but I'm going to go around circa 2012, I think. I started out blogging through Instagram, and I had an Instagram account that was called Shot From Above, and I used to share photos of my outfits using the From Where I Stand pictures. For two reasons. I liked them when other bloggers post them, and the second reason is that I was too embarrassed to put my face and name to the fact that I was doing something like this. This is the main thing that I would do differently. If I was to start all over again now, I'd jump straight into it and not worry about what other people think, although I think it's a very natural thing to think about. You worry about what people who know you in like a personal level might, if they think it's cringy or if they think it's weird that you're doing it, then I think it's normal to worry about that stuff. But if you are in that situation right now and you're thinking of starting a blog, please don't worry about it. Like, I can't tell you how much it so doesn't matter what other people think. And it's easy for me to say that now from this position where it's all worked out okay. And I know when you're starting out, well, obviously I was too scared to do it when I started out, but I wish that I hadn't been, because there is nothing embarrassing about having a hobby that furthers you in life. Like, even if it remains a hobby, you do it for fun, you do it because you want to meet people and connect with like-minded people, whatever your reasonings are. This is an amazing tool on your CV which shows an incredible set of skills, especially that you are very self-motivated, which that comes through blogging more so than loads of other things you might do alongside your education, like working part-time or having internships. Blogging shows a different set of skills to any of those, and there is nothing cringy about doing something which is going to push you forward, and there's absolutely nothing embarrassing about knowing what you want to do and pursuing it. And one of the things that I am so incredibly lucky for is that I found what I wanted to do at a very early age. Like, I think even in your 20s, knowing what you want to do is a huge advantage. So many people don't. It's so hard to know what you want to do for a career, and I am very, very lucky that I found it, and I would never have found it without taking the plunge into it, and that could be what happens for you. So you've just got to go for it completely, honestly. Just dive in and do it, and don't think about what people might think. So yeah, that was why I started off on Instagram, basically, for all the wrong reasons. But after a while, by the time I was moving into my second year at uni, I decided I wanted to create a website, and that was called Shots From the Street, because it linked from Shot From Above, so that's why the blog is called Shot From the Street. So I started the website, and I think at the point that I did that, maybe I had like 1,000 to 2,000 Instagram followers. I'm not sure exactly by the time that I started doing the blog. And at that point, it wasn't on my radar that this might one day become a job. I was aware that people had it as a job. I was aware that that would be an amazing thing to do. And I was aware that I was very much loving doing this as a hobby, but I didn't sort of have it on my horizon that I want to do this for a job at all. So yeah, starting the blog, I started out on Blogger. I guess the big decision is Blogger and WordPress. I have no real reason for starting on Blogger. I just went with Blogger. Like, I wish I could tell you more about that, but there is nothing to share. I just went with Blogger. I think it's a really good one to start out on. It's really user-friendly. The templates are easy to use. Yeah, I felt it was really good. I've only very recently moved away from Blogger. I'll talk about that later. But it served me very, very well for about 2 years. The only point is, if you are on Blogger, don't trust the stats that it gives you. They're completely inaccurate. They're actually quite overinflated. So if you want to have a good sense of what your blog traffic is, make sure you have Google Analytics, because for quite a while I was just using the Blogger statistics. And then someone was like, they're really inaccurate, and you'll probably actually have about half of what that says. And it was true, and it was quite a depressing moment. So like, get that bit over with as soon as possible, because it's like a little bit sad when that happens. So Blogger, I started with Blogger. I did have a DSLR camera anyway. I had the Nikon entry-level one. Can't remember exactly what it was called, but I think it was like the D3200, something like that. I'll write it in the description box. And at that point, I didn't have any lenses. I just had the lens it came with. Couldn't even tell you what lens it was. So having a DSLR definitely makes a big difference anyway. Even the entry-level one, like when I started experimenting with different lenses especially. So I did have some level of equipment to facilitate, creating good imagery already. Sticking briefly on the topic of equipment, because I don't want to dwell on it too much, just in case any of you were wondering, I now use the Nikon D5300, and I mostly use 3 lenses. An 85mm lens, which you have to like stand in the next county to get a full length picture of you on, but the background blurs beautifully. Then I also have a 50mm lens, which is a big popular one with bloody buzzer, 1 minute. Okay, sorry about that guys, a parcel arrived. Right, I was talking about lenses, I think. 50mm lens, that's the one that's really, really popular with bloggers, and again, gives you a really nice blurred background. And the final one I have is 35mm, which I'm shooting on now, and that's good for like clothes where you don't want to be stood 10 streets away, and doing stuff indoors, and I film a lot of things. And then for vlogging, I use the Canon G7X. So yeah, that's it for like technical things. I'm not going to focus too much on that generally throughout the video. So the decision to take the blog full time came around in my 3rd year of uni, which is like a typical moment of thinking, what the hell am I going to do with myself when I actually graduate? And I realised that I'd found something that I absolutely love to do, and I loved blogging so much, and it becomes such a huge, huge part of my life that I really, really, really wished that it could become my full-time job. I think for a lot of people, they suddenly find themselves at a point with their blog where they are making money and think, actually, I could give up what else I'm doing and focus on this. But because I was doing it through uni, and then that point was such a pivotal moment, that was why I kind of made the decision the other way around, of thinking, my blog's not entirely ready to make me a living, but I'm going to make it ready, and I'm going to do it anyway. So the motivation for that was also that I knew that if I went and got a full-time job, I wouldn't be able to focus on the blog as much as I wanted to, and I would also be very scared to walk away from a salary to do freelance work, which actually felt scarier than never picking up a salary in the first place and going straight into freelance work. One point I do want to make, to be completely honest, is that I had some savings that I knew that would sustain me for a while. So that's what made the decision all the more possible. So I was incredibly fortunate in that sense, that I didn't have to go out and take on a salary straight away, and that I knew that I'd have enough to get by for a little while. So that's why the decision came. I thought when I was at uni, when I graduate, I'm going to do it. I'm going to put all my eggs in one basket, focus on this, and see what happens. Put my all into it. And also because I knew that's what I wanted to do, in my head I thought, if I go on and go into full-time employment, I might always go, what if I had the time that I really wanted to do everything I possibly could, and to pull out all the stops to make it happen. And I decided I didn't want to have that what if, and that I'd rather take the risk, and so that was what I did. So when I graduated in June, the blog, or was it July? You see, I just cannot remember dates at all. June, July. The blog wasn't ready to make me a living at all. And at that point, I was still living at home, and Harry and I ended up moving in here in October. So that was kind of the date that I had to know that I was making enough money to pay the rent off and things. So I just worked like hell throughout the summer, did everything that I possibly could. I reached out to PR companies, I reached out to brands, I pushed the blog more, I pushed my photography more, I started focusing on YouTube a little bit more. I had dabbled in YouTube when I was at university, but I didn't have the time to do it regularly because it's incredibly time consuming. Whereas now that I was just doing blogging, I had so much more time to do the things that I wanted to do like that. And I just kind of went for it. And luckily enough, by the time it came to having to start paying rent, I was in a position where my blog could afford me to live. I was making a living off my blog. What was that sentence then? I was at a point where my blog, oh my god. So, by October, I was making a living off my blog. It's basically what I'm trying to say. and I have been ever since then. So I'm just trying to be completely transparent and say that so much of what happened for me was quite circumstantial, and that, you know, I was in a position where I could move back home when I finished uni, so I wasn't paying rent, and that I had some savings, and that I started at uni at a time where I had more time, that things happened in a certain way that made certain moments possible. That being said, a lot of other people, I'm sure, have these moments. They won't be identical, of course, not identical, but you just have to grab them and just go for them and not let anything get in your way or stop it, and make the most and take advantage of any moments like that you're presented with. So take the advantage of your timetables at university. You're never going to have those kind of times again. Take advantage of the fact that you could live at home for a few months and your parents might not charge you board for that period of time, or take advantage of whatever, you know, situation you have that you think could get you closer to what you want to do, whether it's blogging full time or just anything at all. And I think that played a big part in the fact that I am now doing this as my full time job. But I just wanted to be completely honest and, you know, make it clear what my situation was, and also, you know, I don't take that for granted for a single moment either. Okay, so blogging full time and just, well, generally blogging at all. So obviously a big part of being able to blog full time is knowing what your audience is and also working with brands. For me, I've never had that like sudden, I mean, I don't think anybody has a sudden success, but my growth has always been, you know, steady and not like woo, but more like a, you know, slight increase the whole time, which I'm fine with. That works for me. And I've slowly built up quite a dedicated audience, which I'm very, very thankful for. And I think the best way to go about building an audience and also go about working with brands is consistency. There's so many blogs out there. For every one of me, there's 10 other people, more now, you know, like 100 other people doing it. So you have to have something which other people don't, and always remember that if you don't give people what they want, they can find it somewhere else. So, you know, if you are working as well as blogging, and you can't, you know, I post 6 times a week at the moment and 2 YouTube videos, but that's a lot. That's because I do it full time. But if you don't have that, you know, set your level and stick to it, and do it always to, you know, a degree of quality that you're happy with, and stick to that, and don't waver from it ever, because, you know, you have to do it for a long time before you're in a position to work with brands. And think of it as building a portfolio like you do in creative degrees and things. You build that portfolio and you go, look, this is what I do, this is what, if you invest your money in me, this is what you'll get, and I can guarantee you'll get this because I've done it like this for a year solidly, and you can see that I have, and that I haven't wavered from it. And I'm not suddenly going to do a crap job all of a sudden. And that also works with brands wanting to work with you, and your audience know what to expect, and you deliver on that. And that's a really, really important part of it. I think the main reason I've been able to take my blog full time is consistency and keeping at it. I set myself a level and stuck to it, and I think that's something really important for anybody, whatever that level may be. It doesn't have to be every day at all. You have to do whatever fits with your lifestyle. So yeah, a bit more about working with brands. If you are blogging, I don't think there's anything wrong with reaching out to brands. You can send out media kits speculatively, introduce yourself. Don't email a brand, and I've had PRs tell me that this is what people do. Don't email a brand and go, hi, I'm so-and-so, and please send me these products or whatever, because that's not going to make a good first impression at all. And generally don't go in as in saying, I want to do this. Maybe just go in and say, hi, this is who I am, this is what I've done. I would maybe love to work together if the opportunity comes up later down the line or something. And that's a good way to introduce yourself to people and to PRs and things, and maybe they'll think of you if they then have some work that comes up 6 months later and they go, oh, what about that girl that emailed us then? We could ask her, sort of thing. So yeah, but generally I think your blog gets to a point where the brands come to you. And as much as we probably all like to say it's not a numbers game, so much of it is. Obviously, brands can see your followers, and that matters to them. They want to know how many people they're reaching. They want to know how engaged those people are that they're reaching. It matters, and it's naive to say that it doesn't matter. But you get to that point through quality, and you can upsell yourself if you are creating amazing content, even if you don't have hundreds of thousands of followers. So yeah, try not to get, if you are blogging, try not to get hung up on the numbers. I know it's really, really hard to, because it is undoubtedly incredibly important if you are trying to sell your following effectively, and that's what you have to offer. That's why someone wants to work with you, because you reach this many people and they care about what you're saying and what you're recommending. Another big tip for working with brands, especially if you're at the stage where you have a few brands that you've worked with in the past, is to make them become ongoing collaborations. Like once you've done a job with them, then get in touch again and say, should we do something else this time, or I have this idea, what do you think? There's nothing wrong with pitching ideas. And generally I believe that PRs like to have an idea pitched to them. It shows a different level of engagement, and if they have a brand that they have to get a certain amount of outreach for, then you're kind of half doing a bit of their job for them, because you're giving them an idea for them. As long as you always put someone in a position where they can comfortably say no, and then you've got nothing to lose. Obviously just be really polite the whole time so people feel they can say no if they have to. But I find that ongoing collaborations are beneficial for everybody involved. Like your readers of your blog prefer that kind of thing, because it's not as much different sponsored content coming through. It's better for the blogger because you have a really good relationship with the person you're working with, and generally it becomes more efficient because you know what to expect from one another. And the same applies for the client, the brand or the PR. You know, it's good for them because they know that they're reaching an engaged audience as well. So don't be afraid to go back to somebody and say, I absolutely love working together, let's do it again, or anything like that. Sometimes you just got to think to yourself, what have I got to lose? As long as you're polite about things, then the answer most of the time is you've got nothing to lose. So I think I've pretty much covered all the things I want to talk about. I'm just going to finish off with some general points about blogging and what I think, really helps to create a good blog and to further your blog and things like that. So I know I mentioned earlier that I started out on Blogger not that long ago. In November I moved over to Squarespace, basically because I wanted to be able to do, I don't know how to do HTML coding or anything like that at all, and I wanted to be able to make something that was a little bit more personal to me and not just use a template. So, Squarespace is still templates, but you can do quite a lot with it and make it quite personalised, and I've been loving it. Like, I love how our blog looks. It's really, really easy to use, and I would completely recommend it. So now I use Squarespace, and I've never tried WordPress or anything like that, so I can't comment on what WordPress is like, but I've heard lots of good things about it too. Another thing I quickly want to cover is YouTube generally. For me, the centre and the focus of all my work is the blog, like all my social media activity, and like Instagram. My Instagram is my biggest area of following, and that is what I can sell the most, if that makes sense, and that's what I can set my fees from, because that's the biggest following. But even so, the blog is the most central thing for me, and then everything kind of comes off that. Instagram content comes off that, and that's the most central point. And YouTube, I started YouTube when I was at uni, just sort of as a natural extension because everybody was doing it, and I always find that I struggle to get my personality across in my writing on the blog, and because my style is kind of it's very minimal, and I always try and go something that's a bit chic, that I tend to naturally gravitate towards a moody pose and a pouty pose rather than a smiley pose, and that's not a reflection of what I like in real life at all. And so I wanted to start YouTube as a way to get my personality across a little bit more, and because I didn't want to just be seen as a moody cow, basically. So that's one of the motivations behind going onto YouTube. But even so, still now the blog gets my main focus, and that's what I work on the most, and that's where most of my sponsored content will go, and my brand collaborations and things like that. I already mentioned the point of consistency, and that for me is the number one thing. I also think being organised, you have to be organised. You have to organise a photographer. My mum takes most of my photos, so I have, again, an extremely fortunate position where it's much easier to boss your mum about, isn't it, than if you're actually working with a professional photographer. So for me that works really well. She usually comes to Manchester about once a week, and we shoot quite a few, and then Harry will help me do any extras that I need throughout the rest of the week. So I am very fortunate in that I don't have to use a photographer. I can just use family and a boyfriend and friends if I have to, things like that. But you do have to be organised, especially in the winter months where you don't have as many daylight hours. You have to organise other people to fit in with your schedule, and to make sure that you are always one step ahead of yourself and have enough content coming through and enough content ready. And have enough going on for that. If the day you're going to plan to shoot, it rains solidly all day and you can't shoot, so you know, you need to make sure you have stuff ready. Obviously I'm quite specifically talking about fashion blogging here and shooting outside. The case is different for all different types of blogging, but I'm just going off what I know in my own experiences. So yeah, blogging full time is absolutely incredible. I love it so much and I am so thankful that I get to do this, and I pinch myself every day that some people actually pay me to do this. It's just amazing, and it makes me so incredibly happy, and I'm grateful for it every single day. And I encourage anybody to give blogging a go if you haven't. You know, there's nothing, you might not like it, but you've tried it, so then you know you don't like it, or you might hit it and go, oh my gosh, I love this, and then you do everything you can in your power to make it work. Or you might just love it as a hobby and have an amazing job and career that you love so much, but this is a great thing on the side because it connects you with like-minded people, you get to be creative, you work with brands which you have admired and loved for years. It's just amazing the opportunities that it presents you with. It's just completely incredible. So I would completely recommend giving blogging a go if you haven't already. And if you do blog and if you have any other questions that I haven't covered or anything else you want to know, just leave me a comment in the comments, obviously, and I'll get back to you and do my best to help out as much as possible. So yeah, I think that is everything. I feel like I'm missing quite a few points, but this video is surely going to be long. So I'm going to wrap it up here and say thank you very much for watching. As always, I hope this has been somewhat informative, and I will see you in my next video.